All right, guys, welcome back to the Hunt G4 channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the new Mathews Lift X. This is the 33. This is Mathews' new 2025 flagship bow. It's essentially the Lift 33 with their new limb shift technology, which we'll go into in a second. Spec-wise, nothing has really changed. It's literally the same riser, same cam, same mod system, all that. So, as the name suggests, 33-inch axle to axle on the Lift X-33. Comes in at a 6.5-inch brace height, 4.26 pounds bare bow. That is without this little dampener here. IBO's at 343. I think it comes in a little bit under that based on my speed tests in the past. But more so than the specs on the bow this year, I think what a lot of people are hyped about with Mathews are some of the accessories that they're offering with it. So they've had the bridge lock technology for a while. They had a sight that they did with Excel, but it was just like a fixed pin version of the sight. This year they have partnered with UltraView. So for those of you who aren't familiar with UltraView, they're a company. They made an extremely popular sight last year. That sight did very well. It's got a lot of really great things about it. There were a couple things that were lacking that Mathews addressed. One of that was the sight housing and the pin brightness. On the original UltraView, the pins were extremely dull without the light. And in those states where you can't hunt with a light on your sight, that is a problem for guys. So Mathews definitely did a better job. It's still not as bright as some of the other pins on the market, but it is much better. It would probably be too dark to shoot if you needed to use the light anyway. They come in a 3 different pin configurations. You can get a 3-pin horizontal, where you can spread the gap between the pins, set them at whatever you want. A 5-pin, which is the one that came with the preview package here, and then a vertical 3-pin where those gaps are fixed. So you would just sight them into whatever they are for your bow, set the indicator accordingly on your sight tape, and run that as a fixed 3-pin essentially on a slider. One thing I like about this new Mathews one is the second and third axis adjustment is much better on this, in my opinion, than on the UltraView. They shortened up the dovetail, just lightened everything up. This is an extremely light sight. The downside to this sight really is the price point. They are $700, but it looks extremely sleek on this bow, as you can see. Just designed to fit this platform really well. Another thing they did this year, I mentioned the tuning system. So in the past, Mathews has always had the top hat system. If you watched my review on the Lift 33 last year, I explained what that is. Essentially what it was a kit that came with 3 different sets of shims in different thicknesses. And depending on what your arrow was doing through paper when you shot, you would press the bow, pull the axle, and shim one or both cams incrementally to one way or the other until that bullet hole or that tear through paper came into a bullet hole. A very effective system, although I did notice with the lifts that they were more touchy, meaning one top hat size would change my tear more right to left than it did on previous year's models. Not a huge deal, but there were a lot of bows where you set the rest in center shot. Let's say we move the top hats and we're a 1/4 inch tail right. I would move just one cam, one top hat size to the right, and it would flip flop it to a 1/4 inch tail left. So then you're stuck essentially moving your rest slightly inside or outside to compensate for that, which doesn't really hurt anything. But what this new limb shift system allows you to do is actually just, a 20th of a turn at a time, shift, and it's not moving the cam, it's literally moving the end of the limb here slightly, which I'll get into my thoughts on that in a second here. But you're able to really micro tune that tear through paper without a bow press. That's becoming a very popular thing across the board, across the industry, is being able to work on your stuff without a bow press, especially for those guys who live a long way from a shop. They want to be able to broadhead tune, paper tune, all that stuff without having to go in and out of their shop, even if they have a press. This is so much faster. All I need is a set of Allen wrenches. You pull off the end cap screw here. There's another Allen head in there, and it tells you which way to turn it, depending on which way you want to move your tear. Aside from just getting a bullet hole through paper on your initial tune, what's nice about this is if I'm broadhead tuning and I'm hitting right or left, rather than moving my rest, I can just shift this limb, much like on the Bowtech's direct drive system or on Elite system where they rock the limb pocket there. I don't have to move my rest. So I'm not taking my arrow inside or outside of center. It's not going to mess with my sights. I'm literally just changing the load on that limb and the deflection on that limb, which then changes the cast of that arrow. That not only as a pro shop saves me a lot of time, but as a consumer, that's going to be really, really nice to be able to work on your stuff without a press and a whole top hat kit from Mathews. So I think that's going to really do well for them. For those of you saying, did they address the limb issue? Last year, they had a bad run of material in their limbs, and there were some bows that had limb issues. That's very rare for Mathews. They did address it. They extended the warranty on the lift to all users, not just the original owner. So they addressed the issue. They compensated more than fairly, I would say, in my opinion. And this year, they're calling it the Arc 7 limb. And they are confident that they will have zero issues with this. Obviously, it's so new. That's yet to be seen. But I trust Mathews. They are pretty much second to none in addressing and fixing problems like that. So this bow will go from 26 to 31.5 inches. They did come out with a long draw version this year to replace the Atlas. So it's basically the same platform as the Lift 33 with a slightly different cam on it. That one will go out to, I believe, 33.5 inches. So it'll fit all those long draw guys. But your standard 33 is going to go 26 to 31. Or 31.5, excuse me. You still have the switch weight mods. So I can make this a 55 all the way up to an 80-pound peak weight and adjust down from there in 5-pound increments. So 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, so on and so forth. That's really nice. There's a lot of guys, they buy a 70-pound bow, they get used to it, and they go, man, I could easily pull 75 or 80, but they don't want to buy a new set of limbs. So with the Mathews, you can just buy a new set of mods for $55, and you have a 75 or 80-pound bow. So lots of cool options there. This one has the bridge lock stabilizer. This is one of their new colorways, so they finally got Cuyu Verde. I know a lot of people have been wanting that for a long time. Here in Oregon, I think this is probably one of the most popular camos that people go with if they're not going with a solid color bow. They did get another color they're calling it Shale. This is the shorter model. This is their new solid color. So basically just like a gunmetal gray here. Good looking bow. Their finish on them is great. My favorite thing they did this year, grab these. I shouldn't say favorite. Besides the tuning, they finally addressed their grip issue. So the Engage grip that came on all the Mathews the last, I don't know, since like the Triax basically, or maybe the Verdicts, I think. It's not a bad grip. A lot of people don't like it. It was kind of rounded in the back. It was hard to feel consistent with. This year, they come stock with the Engage, but they updated it a little bit. So it's a harder plastic with kind of a softer rubber insert here, although it does feel more defined than its full rubber counterpart last year. But then they also offer 2 other grips. These are called the Bond grips, as well as the side plates. They still have the side plate option, but they've got a tapered option here, a slightly contoured option, and these are much flatter and more defined on the back. They do not come with the bow. That's what everybody asks, but you can buy them individually. This is just a little pack they sent. I really like the tapered personally. It's a little bit wider at the bottom than it is at the top, but it's got a really good feel to it. Apparently they worked with a lot of their pro shooters and mapped like 400 different archers' grip pressure and positions and built these grips based on that. So they didn't just decide this is what people want. They actually, did their research and built grips accordingly. They're a little pricey. They're $100 for one of the grips. I believe the side plates are still $50. But there are options now, whereas before you really had to go aftermarket, and there's just not that many people building a really solid aftermarket grip for Mathews. So I'm really happy they did that. I wish it came with all the options. They didn't bump their price a whole lot this year. I think it went up $40. But in my opinion, that new tuning feature and whatnot is well worth it. Like I said, that's going to save pro shops a lot of times. It's going to save you a lot of time if you're at home working on your own stuff. So basically, they took a very successful, probably the most successful bow they've ever had, and just made little changes to it to make it easier for your average consumer to work with at home. I didn't do the speed test for this just because there's a million of them out there. The speeds are consistent with just what the lift was. One thing I did notice on this, and I don't know why, they tend to draw like a 1/4 inch short on the draw board. So the lift 33 from last year with the 29.5-inch mods was right at 29.5 on the drawboard. This year it was like 29.25, 29 3/8. So they feel just a touch shorter, which I can't figure out why, because it's literally the exact same. I don't know if that's just the bow that we had, although my buddy at another shop said the same thing. He usually shoots 29.5, and he said 30 felt way more comfortable to him. So something to keep in mind. If you feel a little scrunched up with your usual draw length, just try that next option up. Still 1/2-inch draw length increments, as always. I hope one day they can figure out how to do 1/4-inch without doubling the sets of mods that you need for these. But usually you can find a mod that fits you no problem. So lots of cool features on this bow. We are waiting on our stock. I have one of each model to try. They make this in the 29.5. They do have a new one, the RS, that we'll be reviewing here soon. It's kind of their lighter weight, short draw length bow. I think that's going to be really popular with like youth and women this year, or shorter draw length men. But great lineup from Mathews. Highly encourage you to come check one out and shoot one. Like I said, we have them here at the shop. What is it, the 26th today? Hopefully by next week we start seeing some stock. But yeah, it's an awesome bow. I think they'll do really well this year, as always with Mathews. And I think they made some great changes to it. So anyway, thanks for watching today. If you have any questions, feel free to give the shop a call and chat, or just come in and get your hands on one and shoot it.